Students with Disabilities and the Common Core State Standards in Mathematics, CCSSM. This session provides information regarding CCSSM instruction and assessment of students with disabilities. This document was developed and produced by the Maryland State Department of Education through federal funds. Towson University's Teaching Modules Development Team was headed by Project Director Debbie Gartland. Roberta Stroh-Snyder, Val Sharp, Michelle Pascoe, Lenore Chapman, Jessica Kirchen, Jessica Moore, Rebecca Malloy, and Darlene Fuster served on the team. Thank you to all the content experts and others who provided feedback on the teaching modules as they were under development, including Towson University faculty, staff, and teacher candidates, and school system and MSDE personnel. What do you know? How are students with disabilities considered in the CCSSM? Where do you find resources for teaching students with disabilities? These objectives are the focus of the session. Objectives are revisited at the conclusion of the session. After this session, you will be able to identify the importance of considering all learners while implementing and assessing the CCSSM. You will be able to identify teaching strategies and resources for implementing CCSSM with students with disabilities or difficulties. Finally, you will be able to identify the park accommodations and modifications for students with disabilities. Raise the bar, high standards for all. Should we have high standards for all learners? Students with mathematics disabilities. In the elementary grades, K-5, the goal of the Common Core is to provide students with a strong background on the fundamentals of mathematics. What is the best way to provide intervention for students with a mathematics learning disability or difficulties, and to provide intervention while simultaneously addressing the Common Core? Students who struggle with mathematics. It is estimated 3 to 6% of school-age students struggle with a mathematics learning disability, and their struggles typically persist throughout their formal schooling and beyond. Students who demonstrate lower mathematics performance in kindergarten make smaller gains in mathematics during elementary school. Many more students struggle with low mathematics performance without a formal diagnosis of a mathematics learning disability, which is often referred to as MD. Areas of challenge: counting skills, miscounting or double counting, unusual difficulty with cardinality, telling time, fluency with and conceptual understanding of basic number combinations. Problem solving is another area of challenge for students with MD. In addition to all these mathematics areas, reading difficulties may intersect with mathematics performance, and these students tend to experience differentially poor performance with word problems. Because the Common Core is influencing many aspects of mathematics instruction in general education, and because students with MD are required to have access to the general education curriculum, intervention for students with MD must align with the Common Core. What supports and accommodations are needed for students with disabilities to meet the high standards of the MCCRS? Fill in the blanks. Check yourself. Supports and related services designed to meet the unique needs of these students and to enable their access to the general education curriculum. an Individualized Education Program, or IEP, which includes annual goals aligned with and chosen to facilitate their attainment of grade-level academic standards. Teachers and specialized instructional support personnel who are prepared and qualified to deliver high-quality, evidence-based, individualized instruction and support services. How did you do? The CCSS promotes a culture of high expectations within the general education curriculum. Some supports and services that may be provided to students with disabilities include, fill in the blanks. Let's see how you did. Some supports and services that may be provided with disabilities include instructional supports for learning based on the principles of Universal Design for Learning, UDL, which fosters student engagement by presenting information in multiple ways and allowing for diverse avenues of action and expression. Instructional accommodations, changes in materials or procedures which do not change the standards but allow students to learn within the framework of the Common Core. Assistive technology, devices and services to ensure access to the general education curriculum and the Common Core state standards. What do these implications for students with disabilities look like? After reading implications for students with disabilities, visualize instruction for students with disabilities. Demonstrate your understanding of this in your own way. You may draw, write, describe, or share your representation in any way. Consider challenges students with math difficulties face. Although these students have difficulties, their instruction must support them in meeting the high standards of the CCSSM. How do we do this? The first of three big ideas for supporting students with math difficulties is CRA. Effectively teaching our learners with CRA. With CRA, concrete, representational, and abstract, teachers can foster conceptual and procedural understanding of math skills and concepts. CRA can also be used to assess learners. Mathematical levels of abstraction. The levels are concrete, representational, and abstract. As you teach mathematics to the young child, it is important to keep in mind the levels of abstraction. Teachers promote math understanding through teaching and modeling using the levels of abstraction, moving from and making connections between the concrete level, representational level, and abstract level. Examples of these levels are shown on the next few slides. In the concrete level, students who are currently at the concrete stage use physical materials, manipulatives, to understand the mathematical concept that is being taught. The teacher will say and use number words, but the focus is to represent the mathematics concepts or skills with a physical visual model. Teachers should select the physical model which best represents the mathematics students will do in the abstract stage. Students can precisely represent their thinking by drawing pictures of the physical materials. Representational level. The representational stage is also known as the bridging stage. In this stage, students use physical models or manipulatives and pictures, drawings of models to represent the mathematics being taught. Teachers purposefully connect to the physical model to the numerals and symbols represented by the physical models. This is an extremely important stage since students need to make the connection of the physical models to the mathematical symbols. Students can precisely communicate the mathematics in a solution by drawing pictures and labeling the pictures of the models with the correct mathematical symbols and numerals. Abstract. Using numbers and symbols. This final stage occurs when students are able to solve the problem or complete the mathematical procedure just using numerals and symbols. This stage is another way to represent the solution using precision to accurately communicate the mathematics. Let's look at the following word problem in the 3 stages. Kayla has 2 cars. Jamal has 3 cars. How many cars are there? The following 4 slides created by Baltimore County Public Schools shows this word problem in the 3 stages. This shows the concrete stage with like objects in the problem. In kindergarten, teachers pose problems and have students act out the solution using real objects. Then teachers made the connection to models to represent the problem. The MCCRS also mentions that young children in pre-K and K should act out the problem using students and situations in the classroom. Once students are showing mastery of this concept, teachers can continue in the concrete stage, but give problem situations using real objects by telling the story and having students act them out using the same type of objects. This shows the concrete stage with representational objects. Teachers then make the connection to using models to represent the problem using 2-color counters and part whole mats or other manipulatives with part whole mats. In this representational stage or bridging stage, students first act out the problems, but then the teachers would make the connection by showing the written numerals, operational signs, and equal signs to represent the problem symbolically that each of the set of counters represent. In the abstract stage, teachers and students would represent the problem using only abstract representations such as numbers, operational signs, equal signs, etc. To recap, conceptual learning with CRA involves 3 stages: concrete, representational, bridging, and abstract. The second big idea is RTI, response to intervention. RTI also supports students with difficulties or needs. Although the Common Core standards provide the what for learning, RTI provides the how. Teachers can support learners who need targeted or intensive assistance. RTI is a strategic approach that provides the structure and the pathway to mastery of the Common Core standards. RTI and the Common Core standards can be mutually beneficial. RTI can bolster Common Core implementation and sustainability, and the standards can fortify the RTI support structure that moves students toward mastery. Watch the 9-minute video to hear a description of how these two intersect. The third big idea is focusing instruction. Read the article Reaching the Mountaintop, Addressing the Common Core State Standards in Mathematics for Students with Mathematics Difficulties. Then think about these statements. Focusing on foundation skills for the CCSSM is necessary for students with MD. Students with MD require explicit instruction, visual representations, and instruction that emphasizes conceptual and procedural learning. Foundational skills are paramount for higher order math skills. What statement stood out to you? Why? What suggestions and strategies are shared in your excerpt? What does this instruction look like? What resources are involved in implementing this? And how do the methods differ from your current instruction or the way you were taught? Working on foundational skills necessary to the cluster at the mountaintop is working on the Common Core, especially when the concepts for the mountaintop cluster are simultaneously addressed in general education. As shown in the visual, foundational skills can be thought of as base camps, where students must reach to pick up necessary supplies. By learning each of the foundational skills or reaching the next camp, students are making progress in learning the cluster or reaching the mountaintop. Review the documents at Achieve the Core for grades K to 8 and determine the major, additional, and supporting clusters for each grade level. Consider how to prioritize instruction. We can aim for high standards and give general access to the curriculum with CRA, RTI, and the focus on foundational skills. PARC, Accommodations for All. Accessibility features previously for students with IEPs, 504 plans, or English language learners are now available for all. PARC is based on UDL principles. All students have access to tools such as magnification, line reader, killer contrast, glossary, text-to-speech, frequent breaks. PARC and students with disabilities. PARC Online addresses students with disabilities and provides informational brochures for parents and teachers. The needs of students with disabilities and English learners require accommodations and modifications in instruction and in assessment. Revisit your drawing or description of what instruction looks like. Add to this or create a new one using what you have learned in this session. What resources will help teachers raise the bar? Why is it important to do this? What did you learn? Why is it important to consider all learners while implementing and assessing the CCSSM? How do CRA, RTI, and focusing on foundational skills allow teachers to implement CCSSM with students with disabilities or difficulties? What are the PARC accommodations and modifications for students with disabilities? In addition to the sources within this PowerPoint, visit the resources page of this module for a comprehensive bibliography of readings, websites, and materials. Thank you for your attention.